Ramallah.
Let's talk to Rachel Shabi, an author and journalist who's written extensively on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Symbolic, as we heard. I mean, does it change anything at all on the ground?
Well, as your correspondent just said, it's not as though Palestinians suddenly woke up this morning and found the Israeli checkpoints and the separation wall miraculously disappeared. Of course, Palestinians are still living under Israeli occupation. They don't have any autonomy or any real authority. Israel controls every aspect of Palestinian life in the occupied West Bank and Gaza. However, the symbolism is huge. I mean, the fact that we can say Palestine now as a state, we don't have to say occupied Palestinian territories, or Palestinian territories rather. You know, the fact that the international community supported the idea of Palestine so overwhelmingly and supported the idea of the Palestinian right to self-determination and independence, I think that is very significant, and it could have geopolitical traction in the future.
But isn't it also counterproductive, as we've seen from the Israelis continuing with their settlement expansion, the fact now that they are so against this, presumably there'll be no chance of any more talks between Fatah and the Israelis as well, and Fatah has got to sort out Hamas.
Well, the interesting thing about this, of course, was that Fatah and Hamas were actually united over the UN bid. In the end, Hamas came out in support of PA President Abbas's bid to the UN.
But Hamas is committed to, well, doesn't recognise Israel, does it?
Well, it has several times recognised Israel 67 borders. I mean, I think that's a bit of a sort of outdated concept, and certainly, you know, the fact that Palestinians are working towards unity in the fact of working together in this bid is very significant. And Israel, as we see, it's just announced today that it plans to create 3,000 more Jewish settlements in the occupied West Bank. So we can see what Israel's reaction to that bid has been. However, we can also see that Israel and its allies are increasingly isolated. I mean, just 9 countries against that bid. We can see...
Britain abstained, of course.
Britain abstained, of course. But we can see Israel and the US and its allies increasingly marginalized in this conversation. Europe moving more into the center and showing potential to be the sort of honest broker that the region so desperately needs, and which the US has failed to provide for so long.
So the Palestinians now want the protection of the ICC, the International Criminal Court. But again, that cuts both ways, doesn't it? Because even though they claim Israeli war crimes perhaps in Gaza and elsewhere, Israel would have a very strong case in terms of the rockets being fired from Gaza into its territory.
Well, it remains to be seen what Palestine will do in terms of the ICC, and whether it would take any claims to the court. As I understand it, I'm not a lawyer, as I understand it, it can only be claimed from now onwards. So
yes, although they did apply, as I understand it, back in 2009 as well, and were told then at the time that until it had this status, it wouldn't be eligible.
Right, it was rejected at that. Its status was rejected
by
in 2009.
Absolutely,
absolutely. So now it has this. Now it has the capacity to appeal to the ICC, and it remains to be seen whether it will use that. I mean, it would be a bit weird to have the ability to exercise your capacity as a state in the international sphere and not utilize it, especially when there is potential there to call Israel into account, to make it uphold international law with regard to violations such as Jewish settlements and, of course, assaults on a Palestinian territory. So that would be what people would expect Palestine to use this status for at the moment.
All right. Okay, Richard Shabi, let's leave it there. But thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thank you.